Brandon Staley. The man that was supposed to reinvent how the game of football worked. Well, this man has invented ways on what not to do when coaching a professional ball game. This is Sports Guy Talking that you guys are watching and listening to. I am Dustin Tran, your host, as I am here today to talk about Brandon Staley underachieving yet again on the Chargers. Despite having Justin Herbert as his quarterback, the Chargers have been struggling to win football games this season as they are coming off of a 20-17 defeat to the Cowboys. The Chargers are currently sitting at a 2-3 record despite all the talent that they have on their roster. Before I say anything else though, I want to present you guys with the topic question. So here it is. How much of the struggles are Brandon Staley's fault? And if I had to give it percentage-wise from 0 to 100, I'm giving him 90% of the blame. Are you kidding me, Brandon Staley? Brandon Staley is one of the worst coaches in all of football. And when you look at Brandon Staley's win-loss record, you're probably thinking, man, why am I piling on Brandon Staley like crazy? He's not even that bad of a coach. He's already established 2 winning seasons on the LA Chargers. He's already won 21 games for the Los Angeles Chargers. He got Justin Herbert to the playoffs last year. So you're probably thinking, why am I getting on Brandon Staley so badly? But sometimes the win-loss story of head coaches don't tell the whole story. When you look at this Chargers team, they've had all this talent the last few years. They were supposed to be contending for the Super Bowl. They were supposed to be getting playoff victories out of this quarterback, and they haven't done that. Justin Herbert, for the greatness that this man has displayed week in and week out, right now he's battling through injuries like crazy, and to see the Chargers not be able to take advantage of having Justin Herbert on the roster, shame on them. And it's not even like the general manager hasn't gotten Justin Herbert talent. You look at the roster that they have. They got Austin Ekeler. They got Keenan Allen. They got Mike Williams. They got Quentin Johnson. They got Josh Palmer. They got Gerald Everett. They got the offensive line, who's really good. They got the defense where they got Joey Bosa and Derwin James. But for whatever reason, the Los Angeles Chargers have been horrible defensively. Now, were they horrible against the Dallas Cowboys yesterday? No, they actually showed up. But now, guess what? Now the Chargers offense doesn't want to show up because they were failing on 4th down. And speaking of failed 4th downs, what's up with this Brandon Staley guy always going for it on 4th down and failing? It seems to happen every single game. You even look at the 2 games that the Los Angeles Chargers won this season, and it wasn't even because the Los Angeles Chargers outcoached their opponent. It was because the other opponent didn't know how to take advantage of the stupidity that Brandon Staley displayed out there on the football field. You look at the 2 wins that they had. They beat the Minnesota Vikings, but they didn't win because Brandon Staley outcoached Kevin O'Connell. They won the game because the Chargers failed on 4th and 1 on their own 24 late in the game. And then Kirk Cousins, the opposing quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, he didn't take advantage of that opportunity because he threw an interception late in that ball game. If Kirk Cousins doesn't throw that interception late in that ball game, the Chargers probably lose that game because they're probably going to go on to score and win the game. So that's already a win that this Chargers stole right there, but they should have lost that game. When you go for it on 4th and 1 on your own 24, well, up by 4 points. It's not even like he was losing. He was up by 4 points with under 2 minutes left to go. You go for it in that situation and you fail, you're going to get criticized. I don't care what the analytics say. I don't care what the numbers say, because even though I love analytics, hey man, analytics doesn't play the game of football. Analytics doesn't take into account the players that are on the field. They just know how to compute numbers, and on the football field, it takes more than just computing numbers, and I like numbers. I'm a math kind of guy, but you got to know the context of the situation. 4th and 1 on your own 24, you have to punt the ball in that situation, because if you don't punt the ball in that situation, you fail and you end up losing the game. You're going to get crucified. They're going to say, man, if you had punted the ball, you would have won the game. Now, luckily, they did end up winning the game because Kirk Cousins is an overpaid quarterback when it comes to trying to come through in the clutch this year. Now, Kirk Cousins, he's been a pretty good quarterback in general, but nobody's going to say that Kirk Cousins is a top-tier quarterback in the NFL. Now, when you look at the other win that the Los Angeles Chargers have had this season, it was against the LA Raiders, who was playing their 3rd-string quarterback and Aiden O'Connell. They also acted stupid in that game too, because they went for it on 4th and 1 in their own territory. Obviously, the situation says that you got to punt the ball to Aiden O'Connell and make him drive 75 yards down the field. Now, if Aiden O'Connell wins the game because he drove down the field 75 yards on you, then so be it. But to go for it on 4th down in that situation, and then to fail on 4th down, shame on Brandon Staley, because Brandon Staley has to know the situation. He has to know situational football much better, because if they don't convert, you're giving Aiden O'Connell great field position. Now, luckily for the Chargers, Aiden O'Connell was a scrub, and he didn't take advantage of that opportunity because he ended up throwing an interception when having a chance to score a touchdown. So the Los Angeles Chargers got rather lucky with that. They escaped the bullet right there, because if Aiden O'Connell actually knew how to drive his team down the field, the Los Angeles Chargers would have lost that ballgame, or at least it would have been tied, and then the pressure would have been on them to tie the game up. And then you look at last year, you look at the mistakes that he made game after game after game. His defenses get burned all the time. Brandon Staley has a defensive background. Brandon Staley was a former defensive coordinator. Yet every time I watch the Los Angeles Chargers, they are not a tough team. They are a finesse team. They are a soft team. When you watch the Los Angeles Chargers play, you see them getting burned in the run game. You see them getting burned in the pass game. And you're thinking, how are they getting burned with all the talent that they have? They got Joey Bosa. They got Khalil Mack. They got Derwin James. You look at all those weapons that they have on the defensive side of the field, and they're still horrible on that side of the field. I mean, my goodness, you look at the Los Angeles Chargers and you're probably thinking, man, do they have a bunch of Walmart guys on defense because they look slow, they look unathletic, they look very unintelligent, and every time I see them going back in coverage, they're just getting burned left and right. Let's go, let's get burned, let's lay down on the floor, let me just take a rest on defense so I can get my guy Justin Herbert back on offense. And I hate the fact that Brandon Staley never holds his defense accountable. He's supposed to be a defensive guru, but he has never held the defense in check whatsoever. Brandon Staley is supposed to be getting on this defense and saying, hey man, we're supposed to take on the identity of my coaching background, and he has not done that whatsoever. Brandon Staley, all he just does during the game is, oh man, let me look at the numbers. What do the numbers say on fourth down? Oh, do I have a 90% chance of winning the game on fourth down, or do I have an 85% chance of winning the game when I punt the football? Oh, let's go for it on fourth down. That's literally the mentality that Brandon Staley displays game after game after game, and this dude is obsessed with percentages. Now look, I understand wanting to make high percentage decisions, but you cannot base the game of football off of decisions that are off of numbers, because those guys in the analytics room probably never played the game of football. I'm not saying that people who never played the game of football don't know what they're doing. What I am saying is that context of the situation matters, and Brandon Staley seems to lack that understanding when it comes to situational football. This dude lacks understanding of how the game of football even works. He seems to fail to understand how to run a two-minute offense for the most part. You saw what happened yesterday against the Dallas Cowboys, where the Los Angeles Chargers were basically letting Justin Herbert get pressure on every single play in 2 minutes. Man, when you're in 2 minutes, you're supposed to go and max protect. You're supposed to be able to protect your guy better than ever. But the Los Angeles Chargers offensive line basically broke down big time. They got worn out as the game went on. And then Justin Herbert threw an interception. I'm not going to blame him for the interception because that was poor protection. Had there been better protection, an interception would not have happened. And it's really a shame because Justin Herbert is one of the top quarterbacks in the game of football. He's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL right now. He might even be top 5 in some people's boards. I'm not going to go ahead and say that because he hasn't won a playoff game yet. But when you look at Justin Herbert, he's really good, and he's got a cannon for an arm, and he's really athletic. I mean, he is a guy that you build in a laboratory room. He has everything that you want in a quarterback. The problem is his head coach doesn't seem to be built the same way. Brandon Staley is one of the worst coaches that I've ever seen. He makes Anthony Lynn look like he was actually a good coach. Anthony Lynn was a former head coach for the Los Angeles Chargers, and he was certainly not a good head coach. Now, when you look at Brandon Staley, you're thinking, is this guy actually worse than Anthony Lynn? This guy doesn't even seem to understand how the game of football even works. You watch Brandon Staley coach and you're thinking, how is this dude not coaching Division II football? There are guys in D2 football that are even better than Brandon Staley as a head coach. They just don't have the talent that Brandon Staley has had. And guys like Brandon Staley are making others frustrated because you see the talent that the Los Angeles Chargers have. And to see a guy underachieve with them year after year after year, shame on Brandon Staley. I hope Brandon Staley gets fired at the end of the year. I hope they promote Kellen Moore to head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers because he's an offensive guru. I mean, I know that the Chargers, they're going to be fine offensively. It's just the fact that the defense sucks, but I'm sure Kellen Moore can find a defensive coordinator that can do a better job than whatever the Chargers are doing right now, because they have a lot of talent on the defensive side of the field, but they haven't played like it. I mean, look, Brandon Staley right now, he needs to deserve 90% of the blame for the struggles that the Los Angeles Chargers have. For some people, they were a dark horse Super Bowl contender. I was not one of those people. I actually picked the Chargers to miss the playoffs before the year started, but that was because I had no faith in Brandon Staley whatsoever. I mean, Brandon Staley blew a 27-point lead in the playoffs. When you have a coach that blows a lead like that in the playoffs, how much trust can you really have in him moving forward? They should have fired Brandon Staley last year, but don't worry, the Chargers are going to learn their lessons this year. So that's why I give Brandon Staley 90% of the blame, as the Chargers need to fire him ASAP. Remember, go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking, like the video, and please comment down below. If you guys do that, I may shout you guys out in my Instagram story every Monday. That will be for the @Dustin Tran Instagram account. Make sure to follow me on Instagram @Dustin Tran and @Sports Guy Talking. Also, go follow me on Twitter @Dustin Tran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. Go ahead and like the video, comment down below, check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel, Sports Guy Talking.